Denmark, they didn't have a single reliable database of addresses. Each public service had its own database of addresses. All of them were inaccurate. So the fire service would be called out to a fire at a certain address, and they would quite often go to the wrong place because their address database was inaccurate. So they're now making a 70-to-1 return on investment by having a single reliable government database and making that available to everyone to use, public sector and business. Government spending and procurement, where's the money going? Again, very valuable data. And weather data, very valuable for all sorts of things, for disaster management, for agriculture, for transport. All, again, data that's permeates everywhere. And the transport information I'm talking about. Exploited so far mainly in urban context, but it's a question about what data on rural transport and rural means getting across the market. It's not just about publishing new data. One of the things we found here is actually a lot of data is already available on websites, but how do people know that it's there? We found in the UK sometimes the data was published, it's accessible, but it wasn't in a format where it could be reused. It was sometimes published but with restrictions on how it would be used. Sometimes it was published but really only aimed at specialist groups, sometimes within the same sector. Sometimes you had to pay for it. Sometimes the data would be made available if you asked for it, but the government wasn't saying it actually had that data unless you particularly thought it must have that data when you asked for it. And sometimes it's just difficult to find, buried deep in the website in a misleading way. Very important to create sustainable applications. You get a lot of hackathons for bright ideas, but how do you make that use sustainable? It's only when it's sustained that you're really going to get the value from that. And really, the sustainable applications are driven by how often the data is used and how important that data is and how immediate that data is to the person who is using it. So national budget data published annually on a national basis. It's interesting for research, for some researchers and commentators and the like, but the average person in the city street or in the rural village isn't going to be very interested in that much of the time. It's data about schools, it's data about hospitals and health, it's data about transport. It's very immediate to people. It's data about individual crops and local farming. That really close to people, individual users of that data. It's data that people use regularly or even daily. And it's data which influences important decisions. There's a not-for-profit in the UK called My Society, who are a group of people who look at how to use data and technology for civic purposes. And they do things like you can find out what your local member of parliament has been doing. You can use the Right to Information Act, and you can report problems in your local environment, such as a road needing maintenance or street lights that are out of action. And they concentrate on doing things that matter to people. Very immediate, that matter to individual people in their community or very, very local communities. They make it quick and easy to call for action, to report the problem, to do it while people are still upset, motivated to do something. They use location a lot. They use a lot of the UK government's map data, so people don't plot the problem on a map. That they can use a mobile device which knows where it is. They use very simple design. They're very simple websites, very easy to use, very accessible, very simple language. They build in community support, action, and stickiness. So if you report a problem with in your road, perhaps a street lights that are out of action, then others in your community can chime in and support the action for that. You can see the problems that are being reported in your community, and you can see whether the local government have taken action on that. And indeed, it works by reporting whether the problem has been fixed. And you get reminders. If there hasn't been an update on the problem after 4 weeks, you get an email or an SMS saying, if this problem has been fixed, please report that it's been fixed. And if it hasn't been fixed after 12 weeks, you get some instructions on how to escalate it with your local council or your local entity. So building in community action. And finally, they do it by, they're social entrepreneurs. They're helped by IT people. They're not actually led by geeks. They're social entrepreneurs. And finally on this, I'd say, open data doesn't have to be delivered digitally. So when we started in the UK, the first hackathon we had, we thought we had lots of cool smartphone applications. And someone just produced a newspaper which had the data that was relevant to your local community, the performance of local services, where local service access points were. In Liberia, the government published the budget as open data. And someone put up this blackboard in the main square in Monrovia, which explained that, visualized that data for citizens. So I'm running out of time, so let's skip through some of the technical stuff here. But I just wanted to talk about what we've seen very briefly in the last few days working with CERN. And just show how in India and in rural development, we're already somewhere along that route. So the real thing is how do you turn that data into use? Because this is the health and nutrition management information system. And it's already got an icon where you can download the data. So it's not just about access to the data, it's about getting it in a reusable format. It says export to Excel. And indeed you get a spreadsheet which is very processable, and you can start to do analysis and your own visualizations of that. In the international scale of sort of data publishing it in a proprietary format like Excel gets 2 stars. It's reusable, but only if you've got Excel. So we generally don't want to force people to buy a particular software product in order to use the data. We prefer data to be in open formats that anybody can use with any software. Actually, when I delved into this, because I got a warning message when I tried to launch a spreadsheet, the data is not in Excel spreadsheet, in Excel format. It's actually in HTML format, which is an open format. So that's actually 3 stars for this data on rural development already. Another test is what's used for the International Open Data Census, and here the data exists, yes, it's in digital form, it's publicly available, you don't have to pay for it, it's available online, it's in a machine-readable format, it's openly licensed and no restrictions on it, and it's up to date. The only caveat is that you can't download all of it. You've got to drill down and get a particular table for a particular district or a particular mandal. But that's easily fixed. That's just a technical issue rather than policy issues about that. So again, a very, very good base on which to build. What does need to be done in order to get the data used is to build and leverage the open data ecosystem. The resources both within government and outside government, which are about the use of data, about driving innovation with data. The data is there. A lot of the data is there. It's actually about how getting that to use. And to do that, government needs to play in multiple roles. Yes, government needs to supply data. It's government's data, it's going to make that data findable, accessible, and so on. The government needs to be a leader of data and open data. So at all levels of government, and in public services and semi-independent services, the government needs to lead up the opening of that data. the government needs to be a catalyst for getting the use of that data, to encourage it, to incubate it. So in the United States, each department has a mission to engage with business on how its data can be used for economic advantage. In the UK, we've set up something called the Open Data Institute, which is specifically about getting business innovation and incubating startups using the government's data. And finally, the government needs to be a user of its own data. And by making the data openly available, other parts of the government can use that, can find it, can relate data from different departments into solving problems that are some of the most difficult problems are actually problems that are linked together. So the government works in silos. So opening up the data allows that data to be brought together into focused action to solve deep-rooted and long-running policy issues for the government. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that's given you some ideas on how the data can be used. As I said, it's not, don't get transfixed by the open. It's really about how do we use that government data that already exists, and investments are being put into, and create more of it to really solve the problems that are here. And that requires innovation, working within government and the wider community. Thank you very much.
Now we are breaking for the tea. Please have started the lobby and we'll be assembling at 10:50. I request it to take a tea break and let's come back. Good morning, friends. Very happy that all as to how you put the data in the public domain. I've been asked to present the state perspective, and before I come to the quick thoughts on what I perceive of the open data movement that's going on all over the world these days. And of course, India wants to join the bandwagon. Mr. Satyanarayan has come and spoken about the government of India, and also spoke about the information. And when I used to do my engineering at that time, I was collated together